Welcome back, Defenders. Today we have a mystery. The top story this week has been Ukrainian attacks on Russian Shadow Fleet tankers. First of all, Turkey is not happy. Turkey condemns very scary attacks on Russia-linked tankers. The wave of attacks has driven up insurance premiums for Black Sea shipping and prompted an Istanbul-based shipping company to suspend its Russia-linked operations over safety concerns. Now, the first two ships off the coast of Turkey, Ukraine took responsibility. They released the drone boat video. They wanted the entire world to know that they did it. The third ship, this was off the coast of Africa, explosives were planted on the ship. Ukraine is not denying, but also Ukraine is not taking responsibility. The fourth ship, also off the coast of Turkey, here's the mystery. Ukraine denies involvement in attack on Russian tanker off the coast of Turkey. This is a spokesperson for Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ukraine has nothing to do with this incident, and we officially refute any allegations of such kind made by Russian propaganda. Furthermore, the alleged route from Russia to Georgia across Turkey's exclusive economic zone makes no sense, and suggests that Russia may have staged the whole thing. Interesting. So the first thing that's weird about this fourth ship is the captain is saying he was at his desk when the ship, this is the command deck, was struck by a drone. He was sitting right there and apparently he's fine, even though a drone crashed into the ceiling. This is a drone, but it's an aerial drone. The other ships in the Black Sea were struck by sea babies. Why would Ukraine use their very capable naval drones on the first two ships, and then try and use an aerial drone, which I imagine would be harder to hit? I think there'd be a greater probability of missing the ship if you were diving down from the air. But the weirdest thing is the route. This was a Russian tanker going from Russia to Georgia, carrying sunflower oil, and it was struck by a drone here off the coast of Turkey, in Turkey's exclusive economic zone. Why would a Russian ship go all the way over here if its final destination was Georgia? And why would Ukraine strike a sunflower oil ship? Kind of doesn't make sense. So the Ukrainians are alleging that this is a false flag attack. Maybe the Kremlin or the Russian government staged this, they set this up, so they could justify their own attacks on agricultural ships being shipped to or from Odessa. We don't know. Or maybe this was just the Russian crew on this ship staging the attack so they can collect insurance money or something stupid. But this is a mystery, and I don't think we're going to get the answer or the truth from the Russians. But here's the fallout of these attacks. Putin threatens to strike ships of Ukraine's backers after tanker attacks. Ukraine has denied that it was involved in an attack on a Russian-linked tanker carrying sunflower oil in the Black Sea on Tuesday, implying that it was a false flag operation. Putin is implying that all ships in the Black Sea are fair game, and all ships going to Ukraine's partners, maybe ships that belong to Sweden, Finland, Poland, whoever. If attacks on Russia's ships continue, Russia will attack any ship belonging to any country that supports Ukraine. We'll see if he does that. But this is about security, and this is going to waste a lot of time, resources, and manpower. Russia orders underwater inspections of all foreign ships entering its ports. Probably a smart thing to do in a time of war, but Russia's now paranoid that explosives on a ship might be brought in, and then once it's at the port infrastructure or the loading terminal, it'll detonate. So this is just like Operation Spiderweb. After Ukraine snuck in drones on the roof of these trucks, Russia said, we now have to search every truck. We have to look at the roofs, we have to look underneath, we have to look in the spare tires to make sure there aren't explosives or spare drones that are going to pop out and then attack our delicate equipment or military bases. This is a positive for Ukraine. In addition to this, owner of oil tanker damaged near Senegal says it is ceasing all Russian operations. This is Biz Katas Shipping, the Turkish owner of an oil tanker that was damaged near Senegal's coast last week. They've announced they will cease all shipping operations involved with the Russians. Fantastic. I think there's more shipping companies probably also going to make this decision now that Ukraine is striking Shadow Fleet tankers. What else has Ukraine done in the last 2 days? Ukrainian intelligence confirms new attack on Russian oil infrastructure, feeding its military-industrial complex. Explosives with remote detonation destroyed a section of the Druzhba oil pipeline. The attack marks the fourth strike on the pipeline since August. This is where this strike occurred. The Druzhba pipeline goes through Russia, through Bryansk, through Belarus. It even goes through Ukraine on its way to Slovakia and Hungary, but Ukraine is only striking the pipeline on Russian territory. Their public justification for this is that Russia is shipping crude oil to refineries in Belarus. Belarus is then sending gasoline and other refined products through the pipeline back to Russia. So Ukraine's going to hit the pipeline. And this is interesting because the video we have is filming the exact location before the detonation goes off, meaning whoever is filming this, they knew when and where the detonation would occur, meaning they're most likely the person who planted the explosives. There's nothing Russia can do to stop this. If there are saboteurs with explosives in Russia, at some point along this pipeline, they're going to keep hitting it. Druzhba pipeline. It will keep exploding and burning, says Ukraine, after December 1st strike. Ukraine has been going after the pumping stations. They've bombed the pipeline directly. Russia keeps repairing it, but it's a game of whack-a-mole. Ukraine is going to keep striking it, and it doesn't matter what Hungary says or what Slovakia says. This pipeline is going to be eventually taken offline for good. Here's the results. Russia's oil and gas revenues fall 34% year on year in November. We're going to get these same headlines every month. We're going to get the same headline for December, for January, for February, because it's always a year-over-year comparison. And these charts are devastating. This is oil and gas revenues for Russia in billions of rubles. And in 2024, this was lower than 2022 and 2023. But Russia made $590 billion in revenue, which is, what's the headline? 34% less than the previous year. This is not sustainable for the Kremlin, for their war effort, let alone the company that's going to be losing money because they can't operate at a profit anymore. This isn't going to stop until Russia stops this war. And this is the map. This is every single night. Ukraine launches dozens of their own domestically produced drones and missiles, going after military sites, going after energy infrastructure, going after anything of value to the Russian economy. It's the only way to make this war stop. Due to Russia, what Russia has been doing to Ukraine for the last 4 years. What did Ukraine hit? Ukraine just hit a MiG-29 and a radar in Crimea. A nighttime double strike by Ukraine's Primary unit hit both a fighter jet on the tarmac in Kacha and a radar complex near Simferopol. Ukraine released the Firepoint video showing the strike on the MiG-29. This is a $30 million jet. And this is unusual because the Russians left the cockpit door open. Why would they do that? Unless they were close to having a combat mission, so Ukraine probably got it just in time. What else? Ukraine pounds Russian plants that feeds Kremlin's shell production for the third time. Ukrainian drones struck the Nevenamsisk Azot chemical plants, key to Russia's explosives production. This was the third time so far this year, with additional blasts reported in Oriel overnight. This was confirmed by the governor of Tambov. On the night of December 3rd, a fire broke out at an oil depot in the Tambov region after debris from a Kyiv regime terrorist drone crashed. fire crews and law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. But there you go. That's the picture of the chemical plant on fire from falling debris. Because, of course, Russia successfully shoots down 100% of all of Ukraine's drones and missiles. Ukraine just has the most accurate falling debris in the history of warfare. Here's a picture showing the oil depot. This was the chemical plant. More bad news for Russia. Russia shelves Northern Siberia Railway to China over $644 billion price tag. Russia has shelved plans to build a proposed railway line from Siberia to northwestern China due to its price tag. The decision was taken after estimates put construction costs around 50 trillion rubles, or the equivalent to 644 billion US. This is because of the challenging terrain. So at the moment, Russia has their Trans-Siberian Railway. This goes west-east, but they don't really have a good route that goes north-south. So Russia really wanted to build this new rail line going through the border between Russia and China. There's a very small gap in which Mongolia and Kazakhstan do not touch. It's China and Russia Russia doesn't have any money, so they can't build their $500 billion rail line to have a more direct and efficient route to get goods to and from China. Let's mention this story. Russia bans Roblox over extreme content and LGBT propaganda. This has nothing to do with content. Russia is in the process of blocking any digital platform in which they do not control it. The Kremlin only wants their people using the official government surveillance app, Max. They don't want their people talking to each other, communicating, getting any information, unless they control it. This is why the Russians are probably going to ban WhatsApp. They banned Discord, they blocked YouTube, Roblox, pretty much any Western company in which they cannot control and surveil all their people. How many Russians will be affected? Roblox has had 70 million mobile installations in Russia, but only about 2 million daily active users, and I'm guessing most of them are children. So that's 2 million Russian children who woke up this morning and won't be able to use Roblox. Russian cosmonaut axed from Crew 12 for smuggling SpaceX materials. Oleg Artemiev was removed from the Crew 12 ISS mission after allegedly photographing and leaking SpaceX materials during training, according to Russian media and industry sources. Of course, you don't get to be in any position of prestige in Russia unless you serve the Kremlin, unless you're also an FSB spy. So this Russian cosmonaut, he was filmed with his smartphone taking pictures and videos of technical documentation, engines, and the spacecraft's internal equipment. He's a spy, working for the Kremlin. Does Elon Musk care? Elon Musk loves China, even though China has stole all of his IP for Tesla. He loves the Russians, even though the Russians don't respect him, and they're stealing his SpaceX technology. I don't understand. These are people who do not respect or care about Elon Musk, yet he continues to favor and serve them. What are the Russians doing? More terrorism. Russian strikes on Kherson heating plants leave over 40,000 residents in the cold. The human safari in Kherson continues, and Ukrainians continue to die in the city. This is scientist Tatiana Azylyuk. She was 37 years old, and she was killed in her own home when an artillery shell hit it. 6-year-old girl dies after Russian artillery strike on Kherson home. The father was hospitalized with shrapnel wounds in his pelvis. This was a Russian strike on a prenatal center in Kherson. A woman was in the process of giving birth at this facility when Russia started their shelling of it, but they destroyed the entire building with the objective of killing women and children, and especially if they can, kill doctors and nurses. That's what the Russians really want to do, so they can kill more civilians. I'll link the video down below if you want to see it. Good news? These interceptor drones are getting really good. This is a video from the Wild Hornets, and they're showing their Stinger drones taking down Russian Shaheeds. The good news is that Ukraine gets to practice every single night. There's mass production occurring in some countries like the UK. So these Octopus or Stinger drones, they're getting better. And they're good enough now to shoot down the jet-powered version of Russia's Shaheeds. We just need trained crews, we just need disbursements, we need strategy, where to intercept, and to deconflict with other air defense crews and helicopters and jets. It's insanely complicated to blunt these 600, 700 drones and missile attacks every single night. This is a fascinating video I want to share. This is from Prenatal. This is an autonomous, it's a private company developing technology to shoot down FPV drones. These are the fiber optic ones that you can't jam. And this looks very promising. So I imagine once this is commercially available, every government in the West is going to want to buy it. And I think Ukraine is going to have to get it first. But check out how effective this test is. This is not combat footage. This is a test in probably the Arizona desert, but this is this autonomous drone using tracking to shoot down flying drones.
Here is another update on Prenatal, our counter-drone robotics company. Since our last video, we've made several upgrades to the system. We've improved the tracking to handle faster moving drones operating at a greater distance. Additionally, we focused on intercepting drones flying perpendicular to the field of view. The vision stack now includes several new thermal cameras. This allows the system to operate during nighttime and low visibility conditions. We are currently working on multi-drone tracking and neutralization, which we hope to post a video about soon.
This is fantastic. This is small enough where you can mount it in the back of a car. This is a civilian car and it's just laying on the flatbed. This is what Ukraine needs. I mean, I think, this cat and mouse game that we're playing, this is the next evolution to deal with fiber optic FPV drones. These Sentinel guns need to be posted probably in a lot of locations to protect artillery units or wherever. But this is coming. This is what's next. In general, though, I want to share this post from Kristina Berdinskiske. She's a freelance journalist and she's Ukrainian, but this is what she says about her own country. In spite of everything, the Ukrainian state remains surprisingly functional 4 years into this full-scale war. Trains run, banks operate, and drones are manufactured. Cafes and restaurants serve their patrons even during power cuts. Many businesses have purchased generators in preparation for winter blackouts. And Zelensky has so far withstood external pressure and refused to capitulate. His legitimacy is broadly recognized among Ukrainians, regardless of how much propaganda denies it, but his political future in a peaceful country, whenever that circumstance arrives, will depend on what he does now and how he responds to the mood of the public, because Ukrainian civil society has shown that it will not remain silent about matters of justice, even during a time of war. These corruption scandals are a big deal, but it's not destabilizing the Ukrainian state. This is what people who support Russia want to happen. They want to attack and delegitimize Zelensky to cause some kind of political collapse or revolution in Ukraine, and then a pro-Russian politician can somehow take power, but that's fantasy talk. Now, I do think Zelensky's political career is done once the war is over. I don't think he should run to remain in office. I don't think he'll publicly announce that because that would weaken his political power and effectiveness today. But yes, I think Zelensky should retire once there's a conclusion to the war, and there should be a peaceful transition of power to a new elected leader for the state. I think that's the best scenario for everyone, given Zelensky has extended his own time in office, because Ukraine can't have elections. But this relates to the war. Ukraine is not losing. Yes, Russia is making small incremental advantages in the Donbas region slowly over time, but when you factor in the liberated regions in Kherson, the liberated regions in Kharkiv, Russia today controls less of Ukraine than they did 3 years ago. And when you zoom in to the Donbas region, going for Pokrovsk, this is where they started. And Pokrovsk is 40 kilometers from the front lines in 2022, and Russia still hasn't taken it. So this narrative of Ukraine is about to collapse, Ukraine is doomed, this doesn't reflect reality on the ground, which is why Ukraine is not willing to capitulate. But the Russians and the Trump administration are going to keep repeating, Ukraine is losing. Ukraine should cut a deal now. Just give up the Donbas region, give up whatever for a ceasefire or to make the fighting temporarily stop. So let's get to the political news. No compromises found in productive U.S.-Russia talks, according to the Kremlin. This is Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff going to the Kremlin, and this did not go well for Team Peace. Putin makes Trump envoys wait hours, 3 hours, before meeting with them, while he threatens Europe, then talks past midnight with no compromise. So to humiliate Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Putin made them wait in the Kremlin 3 hours. He then spoke to them for 5 hours. Informal reports say he rambled a lot about historical events that happened 900 years ago. That's what he loves to do. But he told him no. This was Russia's 28-point peace plan that the United States adopted, and they're presenting it back to Putin. And Putin said no. The parody accounts summarized this for me. I have rejected my own proposals for peace that I had Donald present to me. It's pretty accurate. Putin is happy with war's progress. Russia's meeting between Witkoff was not about peace in Ukraine. If you watch this channel, you know the truth. The Russians are not looking to end this war. The Russians are looking to expand it. They want more wars to get the Soviet empire back. But here's Sir William Browder. He's going to explain what this Witkoff-Kushner-Putin meeting actually was about. Let me translate for you what this means. There was never any intention from Russia to settle this conflict, even when they released their 28-point peace plan. This whole thing has been a well-executed intelligence operation with two very specific objectives: to derail the devastating oil sanctions that Senator Lindsey Graham had teed up, and to derail the EU plan to transfer the Russian frozen assets to Ukraine. As a result of these so-called peace negotiations, both of these serious consequences have been kicked into the long grass. Putin is happy, and Trump will say, we can't impose sanctions on Russia while we're trying to get peace. And he will lean heavily on the EU not to confiscate the frozen assets so they don't derail these productive negotiations. For anyone who understands what Russia cares about, this whole thing is so obvious. It's a shame we let ourselves get played by Putin. Most importantly, the Russian terrorism against innocent Ukrainians will continue. It's all about wasting time. And Trump was never serious about putting pressure on the Russians. U.S. suspends some sanctions on Russian oil giant Lukoil. The U.S. Treasury Department on Thursday extended authorization for Lukoil branded gas stations outside Russia to continue operating. The Treasury Department has given exemptions to everyone and anything if they just asked for it, if Trump likes them. So these sanctions placed on Russia, Lukoil, and Rosneft a month ago, they were severely watered down. They're not that effective. But what this meeting was about, in this 28-point peace plan, it was leaked online, the most important clause is number 14. Frozen funds will be used as follows. $100 billion in frozen Russian assets will be invested in U.S.-led efforts to rebuild and invest in Ukraine. The U.S. will receive 50% of the profits from this venture. Europe will add an additional $100 billion to increase the amount of investment available for Ukraine's reconstruction. Frozen European funds will be unfrozen, given back to Russia basically. The remainder of the frozen Russian funds will be invested in a separate U.S.-Russia investment vehicle that will implement joint projects in specific areas. Money. This is all the Trump peace plan from the last 3 weeks was about. The Trump family would be in charge of this $100 billion reconstruction fund for Ukraine. What do you think the Trump family would prioritize with this $100 billion? Trump Tower Kyiv, Trump Tower Kharkiv, Trump Luxury Golf and Resort Odessa. The Trump family would just steal the money. They also declared that they would get 50% of the profits from anything that occurs from this fund. In addition, the Europeans have to give the Trump family $100 billion to add to this fund that they exclusively control. So $300 billion is in Russian banks. Of that $300 billion, the Trump family gets $100 billion. The Europeans give the Trump family another $100 billion. Russia then gets back $200 billion of their frozen Russian assets to create a joint U.S.-Russia investment vehicle for Arctic drilling and rare earth minerals, and the Trump family will also profit from this $200 billion. This is why Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, showed up out of nowhere for this meeting in the Kremlin, because he thought he was going to make money. He's already making billions from the Saudis, the Emiratis, and the Israelis, but apparently that's not enough for this guy. There's one common theme with all of these people. It's never enough money for them. Kirill Dmitriev handles Putin's money and offshore interests. Jared Kushner handles Trump's offshore interests. Steve Witkoff's son set up the offshore money laundering business. This is the Trump crypto fund for the Trump family. It all makes sense if you just follow the money. They're not even hiding it. These people don't care. They know that their cult followers here in America are going to continue supporting them no matter what. It doesn't matter how corrupt they are. 30% of Americans are trapped in a cult. They will excuse anything. They will continue supporting Trump no matter who he kills, who he steals from, whatever he does. Epstein files don't matter to these people. They're going to continue supporting them. So Steve Witkoff and his son, Jared Kushner and Trump, they're just trying to grab as much money from the Russians as they can before Trump pardons everyone and then leaves office and they made billions off of a grift. That's all this entire administration is. It serves no other purpose aside from enriching the Trump family and Trump's allies. Don't leave Ukraine alone with these guys. Leaked call among European leaders wary of Witkoff and Kushner. Behind closed doors, concerns are centered on Trump's envoys to Russia, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, with some leaders urging others to protect Zelensky. Yes, obviously. And Witkoff and Kushner aren't even playing along in the political game. Witkoff and Kushner expected to fly from Putin to Zelensky in Brussels. So the Ukrainian delegation met Witkoff and Kushner in Miami. Witkoff and Kushner went to Moscow. They were then supposed to go to Brussels for a follow-up meeting with Zelensky. But there's no sense in informing Kyiv why Trump's envoys skipped the Zelensky meeting after going to meet with Putin. Steve Witkoff doesn't care about Ukraine. He just wants to make money. So he skipped this scheduled meeting in Brussels. The Ukrainian delegation was there, and they just talked to some random national security advisors from Germany, France, Italy, Poland, and the UK, but they don't care about Ukraine. They've never been to Ukraine. They don't like Zelensky. They don't want to meet with and talk to Zelensky. Zelensky doesn't have billions of dollars that Zelensky can give to them, which is what they want. Here are thoughts from General Ben Hodges. This administration's approach has been doomed from the start because they never understood or cared about the origins of the war, the history, or the geography. They don't understand why Ukrainians are fighting so hard, and they don't care. So Putin just strings them along. Here's Gary Kasparov. For a year now, Trump has helped Russia by talking about peace plans and negotiations that have gone nowhere by design and done nothing to stop the fighting. It's been a performance to delay needed independent action by Europe. Here's Jessica Berlin. Russia is ready to keep fighting until the last Ukrainian dies. Russia has zero interest in peace. Calling Kremlin demands for Ukrainian surrender peace talks is just another way of spreading their propaganda. Russia doesn't want to stop the war, and Putin says this. If Europe wants war with Russia, we are ready. This is Putin once again threatening to kill hundreds of millions of people in Europe by nuking them. He didn't say the N word, but that is what he implied. Here's what Putin said yesterday. Are we really preparing for something? We are not going to wage war against Europe. Isn't Ukraine part of Europe? Aren't the Baltics part of Europe? If Russia says Ukraine is part of Russia and not part of Europe, then he can attack it. If he says the Baltics are part of Russia and not part of Europe, then by his own words, he thinks he can attack it. I've said this 100 times, but if Europe suddenly wants to fight us and starts, we are ready right now. There can be no doubt about it, but here is the question. If Europe suddenly starts a war with us, I think that very quickly, this isn't Ukraine. With Ukraine, we are acting surgically, carefully, right, so that it's clear, yeah? This is not a war in the direct modern sense of the word. We're going to pause. How can the largest land war in Europe since World War II not be considered a war? And what Putin is saying by surgically is he hasn't used nuclear weapons yet. That the only real wars that occur now involve nuclear weapons. That's what he's saying. It's not a war unless nuclear weapons are used. Everything else now, by comparison, is being surgically conducted. That's insane. If Europe suddenly wants to start a war with us, it will start one. It's very quick. Very quickly, a situation may arise in which we will have no one left to negotiate with. Meaning Berlin, London, Copenhagen, Brussels, Paris, Madrid, they're all going to be nuked on day one. That is what Putin just threatened all of Europe with. Let me win in Ukraine. Let me win in the Baltics. Let me win in Georgia. Let me win in Moldova. Maybe even Finland or Poland. Or else I will nuke all of your capitals and kill all of your leaders. So for everyone in Europe, the United States is not going to help you. I'm sorry. My government has been captured by Russian money, and they're never going to do anything to help you. So this is the good news for Ukraine. Norway to provide another $500 million for US-made weapons. This is the Pearl Initiative. Trump likes making money, and he's still selling weapons to Europe for a 10% markup. Germany commits another $100 million more to Ukraine's battered energy system amid winter strikes. Thank you, Germany. Thank you, Norway. Sweden allocates $116 million in winter aid package to Ukraine. Thank you so much, Sweden. Canada to provide $200 million for U.S. weapons to Ukraine. Thank you, Canada. This also was announced. Poland will contribute another $100 million to the Pearl Initiative. Thank you, Poland. And New Zealand announced they will contribute $15 million to the Pearl Initiative. Thank you so much to all you Kiwis out there. You guys are amazing. And I also want to thank Denmark. This is a big deal. This video shows the groundbreaking ceremony for a Ukrainian defense factory. This will be the first defense production factory that belongs to Ukraine on foreign soil. No other country was willing to do this because Russia says this is a valid military target belonging to Ukraine, but Denmark allowed it anyways, so thank you so much to all the fantastic people at Denmark. Final two videos I have for you. The first one is a miracle. This is a survivor from the Ternopil apartment bombing from 2 weeks ago, or 9 days ago. This cat was found under the rubble after 9 days. The rescuers found it with an injured paw, fur burned. The cat was hungry and scared, but the cat Mia was found alive and returned to her owner.
Боже, киця наша! Мієчка вижила!
Ну, чекай. Мія.
Дивися, Мієчка, та вона прибігла до мене, сказала Мія.
Мія.
Моя мордочка.
Russia spent $1 million on that X-101 missile to kill this cat. One more video. This is a Ukrainian defender and his dog, but this is a very well-trained dog.
Малюк, йди принеси коробочку, там є в коридорі. Супер. І ще на курточку принеси рюкзачок. Браво, пес! І ще зайку татові покажи. Зайку гарно. Ай ти моя зіра.
Cool dog. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.